Modernism was an international cultural movement which affected literature and the arts in the first decades of the 20th century. Modernists were against tradition and Western values. They rejected the heritage of classical knowledge. They interrupted the father to son transmission of classical literature, art, and science. Modernist artists believed they had to break with tradition, particularly with the religious and political views of the past. Everything in the world is as we perceive it. We create a reality by our own perception of it. All truth is relative. History is a negative thing. Only the present is important. Ezra Pound can be considered as the father of modernism. He was known for his innovative approach to writing. He believed in the power of language to evoke emotions and ideas, often using vivid imagery, unconventional syntax, and allusion to mythology and history. Pound's poetry often challenged traditional poetic forms and experimented with free verse and imagism, focusing on precise concrete details to create a sense of immediacy and intensity in his work. He was also a key figure in promoting and supporting other modernist writers such as T.S. Eliot and James Joyce. However, Pound's legacy is complicated by his controversial political views and action, particularly his support for fascism during World War II. Some of his most known work are the Cantos, an experimental epic poem that spans his entire career and covers a vast array of themes, from history and economics to literature and art. It's known for its complex structure, blending elements of modernism, classical literature, and Eastern philosophy. Pound intended it to be a modern counterpart to Dante's Divine Comedy, using it as a vehicle to explore his personal beliefs and the world around him. While controversial for its sometimes obscure references and political views, it remains a landmark work of 20th century poetry. With Usura is one of those cantos. It critiques the concept of usury, which refers to the practice of charging interest on loans. In the poem, Pound condemns usury as a corrupting force that undermines creativity, beauty, and the natural order. He contrasts the negative effect of usury with the positive qualities of things untouched by it, such as the singing of birds and the growth of crops. Pound's poem is notable for its use of imagery and symbolism to convey his message. He depicts usury as a destructive force that distorts human potential and the relationship between people and nature. The poem reflects Pound's broader concerns about dehumanizing effects of modern capitalism and the need to restore a sense of harmony and balance in society. Overall, With Usura is a powerful expression of Pound's social and economic critique, highlighting his belief in the importance of ethical principles and moral values in shaping human life and culture. In contrast with the cantos, which are Pound's longest poems, we have In a Station of the Metro, one of Ezra Pound's most famous and shortest poems, comprising just 2 lines. Published in 1913, it's a prime example of Pound's imagist poetry, which emphasizes the precise, direct language to create vivid images. The poem captures a fleeting moment in a metro station, where faces in the crowd resemble petals on a wet tree branch. It's celebrated for its ability to evoke a powerful sense of atmosphere and emotions in just a few words. Another modernist that also came in contact with Pound was T.S. Eliot. He was an American that studied at Harvard University and then moved to Paris and after London, where he met Ezra Pound, who helped him greatly with the publishing of his works. His masterpiece is The Wasteland, which he wrote before his conversion to the Anglican religion, after which he wrote several other works, such as The Hollow Man and Ash Wednesday. He also won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1948. The fragmentation of Eliot's poem, The Wasteland, is one example of modernist poetry and represents the fragmentation of Western civilization. The Wasteland is set in a post-war Europe, especially in the Austrian Empire, which was in decadence. It is the breakdown of European culture and society. The 20th century can be considered as a heap of broken images. The Wasteland expresses the psychological effects of war on humanity, where millions of young soldiers were sent to die for no obvious reason. The blame for all this destruction fell on the old generations. The fathers were guilty of death, violence, imperialism, and exploitation. The poem represents a world that has been radically destroyed by war and its consequences. What remains of the mythical past is a desolate post-war land in which life is paralyzed and the future is uncertain. Eliot's view is deeply nihilistic. There are no clear signs of hope for the entire Western world. Another important modernist poet was James Joyce. He was born in Dublin in 1882 and was educated at a Jesuit school. He studied modern languages and after moved to Paris where he married Nora Barnacle. They moved to Trieste where Joyce taught English and made friends with Italo Calvino. He also had two kids and moved to Zurich when World War I broke out. One of his most important works is Dubliners, a collection of 15 short stories about people living in Dublin, like clerks, traders, shops assistants, and common people, who were all oppressed by British cultural imperialism, by economic problems, and by moral constraints linked to religion, politics, and culture. The dominant theme of the 15 short stories is the failure to find a way out of the paralysis. Each short story opens in medias res, when a turning point is going to occur in the life of the protagonist. This critical moment is called an epiphany, which is a sudden manifestation of a hidden or removed truth. It is a spiritual revelation caused by an external object, an unexpected situation like a song or an image. After the epiphany, the character changes his understanding of himself and the reality around him. One of these short stories is Evelyn. Her name reminds us of Eve, but she is a victim rather than a sinner. This story is of a young woman abused by her alcoholic father. She has the chance to leave to Buenos Aires with her boyfriend Frank, but she hears a song that reminds her of the melody shared on the day of her mother's death. Evelyn promised her mother to look after the house and keep the family together. At the dock where she and Frank are about to embark, Evelyn decides not to leave. Evelyn is paralyzed in her horrible life. Another short story from Dubliners is The Dead. It tells us the story of Gabriel Colroy, who is a college professor and a literary critic. He embodies what Joyce would have been if he had not escaped Dublin. Gabriel and Greta, his wife, are at a Christmas party at the professor's aunt's house. At the party, Greta hears a song that reminds her of a boy she used to know, named Michael Furey. Greta keeps thinking about the song throughout the night. When Gabriel asked Greta the cause of Michael's death, she replied to him saying he died because of her. Greta's answer is a real epiphany for Gabriel. He has never had anything or anyone to live or die for. His life suddenly appears to him for what it is, empty and meaningless. Michael is the only character who dies in this story, but he proves to be the only person who has truly lived. Another famous work by Joyce is The Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, which is an autobiographical story of Stephen Dedalus, a young Irish writer that is Joyce's fictional double. He is a rebel against his family, his religion, and his nation. He goes on a voluntary exile to France to break the rules and live his life as an artist. What can be considered Joyce's masterpiece is Ulysses, a story that tells us of the return of Stephen Dedalus to Dublin. He has failed as an artist, now he's only a simple teacher. The story is set in Dublin on a single day, June the 16th, 1904. Stephen has lost his father figure. Simon Dedalus has cut him out of his life. Another Dubliner, Leopold Bloom, a 38-year-old advertising connoisseur, son of a Hungarian Jew, suffers from two emotional crises: the loss of his father and of his son, and the infidelity of his wife, Molly Bloom. Stephen, Leopold, and Molly correspond to Telemachus, Ulysses, and his faithful wife, Penelope. According to the mythical method, the 20th century version of Homer's characters revealed the clash between a mythical, meaningful, ordered past and a fragmented, meaningless present. Joyce used the myth. He made a constant parallel between antiquity and present time. Every character, every episode is linked to the Odyssey. It is the only way of giving shape and meaning to immense panorama of futility and anarchy, which is contemporary history. Another important Irish modernist was Samuel Beckett. He was born in Dublin into an Anglo-Irish family. He graduated in modern languages at Dublin Trinity College, and he worked in Paris as a lecturer at the École Normale. He was influenced by French existentialism and in particular by Camus and Sartre. He then met the Romanian playwright Eugene Ionesco in Paris, after which he moved back to Ireland and became a teacher at Dublin Trinity College. When he was only 25 years old, he decided to lead his life as a vagabond across Europe. Finally, he moved to Paris. When World War II broke out, he fought in the resistance movement in France and met Joyce in Paris in 1945. Beckett was known for the theatre of the absurd, a style of playwriting that emerged in the aftermath of World War II, reflecting the existential angst and disillusionment of the time. Beckett's plays, like Waiting for Godot and Endgame, depict characters trapped in meaningless existence, searching for meaning or redemption. The absurdity lies in the repetitive action, nonsensical dialogue, and bleak settings, highlighting the human conditions of absurdity and the inability to find meaning in the seemingly indifferent universe. Beckett's work often explores themes of existentialism, alienation, and the absurdity of human existence, influencing later playwrights and artists. Waiting for Godot is Beckett's most famous play. It revolves around two characters, Vladimir and Estragon, who wait endlessly for someone named Godot, who never arrives. Set against a barren landscape, the play explores themes of existentialism, uncertainty, and the search for meaning. Throughout the play, Vladimir and Estragon engage in seemingly pointless conversation, engage in mundane activities, and interact with other characters, notably Pozzo and Lucky, who symbolize different aspects of human existence. Despite their efforts to pass the time, they remain stuck in a cycle of waiting, highlighting the absurdity and futility of their existence. Waiting for Godot is open to multiple interpretations, with some seeing Godot as a symbol of hope, redemption, or salvation, while others view him as representing an unobtainable goal or the absence of meaning in life. Beckett's use of language, humor, and existential themes have made the play a classical of modern theatre, challenging audiences to contemplate the nature of existence and human condition.